Welcome to Elementary Algebra. The book is by Harold Jacobs. I'm your presenter, Molly Crocker. This is Chapter 1, Fundamental Operations. This material is copyrighted. We are on Chapter 1, Lesson 3, talking about multiplication. How good is your understanding of Latin words or word parts that have migrated from Latin into English? The Latin multus means many. Plicare means to fold. What are other English words that use these two pieces? Multitude, multiped, as in many-footed, and the word ply. We talk about two-ply fabric or paper or plywood. So now the meaning can be layers. There's also pliable and duplicate, plicare. Back to the task at hand. To find the area of a rectangle, we multiply the length by the width. Remember, multiplication can be shown as repeated addition. The answer when we multiply is called the product. Say it with me. The answer when we multiply is called the product. The answer when we multiply is called what? The product. The parts that are multiplied together are called factors. What do we call the parts of a multiplication problem? Factors. And also note, the product of two numbers does not depend on their order. This rectangle can be thought of as 5 2s or 2 5s. Here's another rectangle. What's the area of this rectangle? Area is found by multiplying length by width. The width is 3, the length is 8. 3 times 8 equals 24. You can think of this as 8 3s added together, or 3 8s added together. You'll do some converting like this in your homework, so pay attention. Here's a rectangle that looks like it's 6 units down the side, but what's the length? Well, we aren't told, so what do you want to call it when you don't know what it is? X is a good choice. So, is there a way to say its area? Area is length multiplied to width to say, and so that we can say the area as 6x. Multiplication can be thought of as repeated addition. So in the case of the area of this rectangle, there are 6 strips of length x here, or an x number of 6s. The answer when you multiply is called the product. The parts are called factors. What's the answer when you subtract? That's a difference. What's the answer when you add? That's a sum. Here are some phrases that mean multiply. 4 times 5. That's obvious. You did that one in arithmetic. 4 times a number. Since I don't know what the number is, I can call it x and just put 4 next to x. The product of 4 and 5. A 4 with a dot and then 5. A dot between the 4 and the 5. The product of 4 and a number. 4x. 4 of these, when I don't know what they are. 4x. 6% of 54. I would multiply 6% times 54. Now, writing math can be confusing. We have 4 ways that we use to mean multiplication. We can set two things next to each other, including wrapping them in parentheses and setting them next to each other. We can use the little x, the crisscross x from arithmetic, but we had probably better stop using that, as you can see from the example above. 6xx. But there is one case where we will continue to use that little crisscross x, and that is in scientific notation. More on that later. Finally, we can use a dot between the factors. 6 dot x also means 6 times x. You know that when you multiply, the order doesn't matter. So we could write 6x or x6 and mean the same thing. However, if your handwriting is even a little bit sloppy, then would the number after the variable mean to multiply, or would it mean an exponent like that? An exponent is always written after the number, so we have a mathematical convention that says if numbers and variables are all factors of an expression, then we will put the number first. It's called the coefficient. The word is another combination of Latin words like multiply. Co means together, and efficere means to make. Efficere. When we want x multiplied to 6, we're going to use 6x and not x6. Let's talk about homework number 13. We should be able to think about multiplication as repeated addition. Since we multiply just 2 factors at a time, we should be repeatedly adding by either factor. For example, 3 times 4 is 3 4s or 4 3s. The addition would look like this: 4 plus 4 plus 4, or 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. 3 4s or 4 3. What about 5x, where one of the factors is a variable? 5x could be thought of as adding 5 x's together. But what about showing an x number of 5s when I don't know what x is? Well, we will use this. I did use this in a previous slide. Now, pause the video here and go look at problem 13. Problems 15 and 16 assume you have some knowledge about how things work. Let's review a few conversions you should know, and maybe 1 or 2 you didn't know. You may want to pause the video here and write down the ones you didn't know. I'm going to let you pause the video here and read them. Here is the list of metric prefixes for length. The prefixes work the same for volume, which we call liters, and mass, which we usually think of as weight. We will call that measurement in grams. Again, if you didn't know these, either write them down or do a web search for an even more complete list. Let's summarize this lesson. The answer when we multiply is called a product. The expressions that are multiplied are called factors. If a number and some letters are part of a product, then the number should go first in the expression. This avoids confusion with an exponent. The number out in front of the expression is called the coefficient. Phrases that mean multiply include, but may not be limited to, product, multiply, of, times. Multiplication is indicated when a number precedes a variable, for example, 6x, 6 times x. There could be a dot between 2 or more expressions, such as 4 times 6 times x, with dots in between the 4 and the 6, and the 6 and the x. And you could simplify that expression, that is, make it shorter, by writing it as 24x, which means 24 times x. Multiplication is indicated when 2 or more expressions are in parentheses without another operation indicated. For example, 4 and 6 and x, where all of those are in parentheses. And that again simplifies to 24x. Well, that's all for now.